All right, we're getting started. Hello, everyone. Welcome. My name is Michael Carlo. I'm one of the runners of PowerBI.Tips. I run the website for PowerBI.Tips. Today, we are partnering with Darren Gosbell, and he's the creator of DAX Studio. He's got an amazing new release out. There's a lot of new features coming out, and I thought I want to learn about it. I think everyone else would want to learn about it as well. So we're going to let Darren jump in here and just do an amazing job of kind of demoing the next version of DAX Studio, release 2.11. And I think you did a quick follow-up here. It was 2.11.0, and you did a kind of fast follow with a 2.11.1 as well, a couple bug fixes as well. So with that, I'll kick it over to Darren. Take it away, Darren. It's all you, buddy.
Straight into the tool. I did a bit of an intro last time. We did a two-part video series where I talked for a couple of hours about DAX Studio and introduced myself. So I'm currently based in Melbourne, Australia. I've been an MVP since 2006, and DAX Studio has been around pretty much since the start of tabular modeling. So I started working on it back in 2011. So it's getting close to 10 years old. Initially, it used to just connect to Power Pivot, and then as the other tabular model engines came out, analysis services, tabular, and then Power BI and Power BI Desktop, we added options for connecting to those things. So I thought I'd start off with the connection screen, because I've added one little feature here that is just a little bit of a quality of life improvement. I've added sort of a default warning that no Power BI windows were found. So at the moment, I don't have any Power BI Desktop instances running. If I'm to start up Power BI.
Oh, I like this. This is a cool little feature add there.
Yeah, there were a few people clicking on Power BI and then having problems because the connect button wouldn't light up when you just connect, when nothing was running. So there's always been a little tooltip you could hover over. Although it's not actually hovering over. That's meant to show up the fact that there were no windows found. Yeah, so this gives you an immediate hint without having to sort of hover over anything that we need a Power BI window running. Oh, there it goes. Hang on, my machine is doing all sorts of strange things, of course, as it will only do when you're sharing screen.
Exactly, live demos. This is key.
Yep. Oh, there it goes. It's starting off on my other screen. That was a very strange pause. So the other thing I've done, which is not in the advanced options, oh, there it goes. Now that I've about to switch tracks, that it lights up. So you can see it's switched to untitled. I've just clicked on a Power BI file, and if I click back on here, so it reloads.
Oh, okay.
This drop down.
Nice.
As I've switched focus back and forwards between DAX Studio and Power BI, so you don't have to close your connect window if you forgot to open DAX Studio as you alt tab back and forwards, and I've got my little Power BI model on my other screen. So that was one little thing in the connect window. The other thing I added was I've got a Azure Analysis Services instance. These server names can tend to be quite long, and really the interesting bit is on the end. So this is my dev2 instance. I'm just thinking I forgot to fire up Zoom before we started, and because I'm madly typing Control-1 and it's not firing up.
Yeah, there we go. Perfect.
So dev2 on the end is really the interesting bit, and there's sort of I'm in the Australia Southeast region. That's not overly important. So this is going to ask me to log in. I've got a handful of accounts here. So all of this login flow is sort of handled by the provider Microsoft provides. So you can see down in the bottom now that I'm showing that this is an AS Azure connection, and I've commented out, put dots in for that less important part of the connection string, and I'm showing that it's the dev2 instance.
Nice.
And you can hover over, get a tooltip that shows you the full server name. Sort of made the assumption there that a lot of people have the same instance name in different regions around the world. I'd be curious to know if that is an issue for people.
Yeah,
so I could probably make that sort of stuff optional to comment out, but sort of trying to preserve space in the status bar there. Yeah, so now that little hiccup's over and Power BI and everything seems to be loaded, there are a couple of other little features. Oh, while I'm hovering up in the top of the screen, you'll see, and I've used the wrong button again. You'll see that there's some new buttons in the top left corner. I've sort of been trying to get those to work for years. I've had a few issues with the way the little ribbon control we've got here works, but these should now work. So you can click on new to open a brand new window. So you can see this is open to query 2. Connect that to Power BI. There's also an option to open a new query window, but use the existing connection. So this window is currently connected to my AdventureWorks model. I can click that one to open a second copy that leaves me connected to the same database, so I can jump back and forwards between the two windows and run different query in each one and compare the results back and forwards without sort of losing results. So that's quite handy. And of course, having the save button there saves you a couple of clicks from going file and save.
For sure.
But yeah, a couple of the big things we've added in this feature, in this 2.11 release, are a couple of preview features. So they're in the options in the advanced window. So there's the query builder and the benchmark. So they're probably the two big features that were definitely worth covering in this.
And so for people to see those features, if you download the new version of this, right, the local version, you have to actually turn them on so that they enable themselves, correct?
Yeah, there's still a few rough edges in them. So I sort of put them followed the Power BI sort of model of putting them under a little feature flag. So you go into File and then Options, and then under Advanced we have a few preview features.
Nice.
So all of these are sort of still works in progress. So I know probably most people watching, anyone that's watching this webinar live is probably enough of a fan that they go straight in and enable these preview features straight away.
Exactly.
And people that follow me on Twitter, and that's fine. I know there's some. I mean, even at my old work, there were business analysts and people using DAX Studio for viewing the metadata of their models and doing some simple testing and stuff. So yeah, I was sort of amazed. I was amazed how far down sort of the chain into a few of the self-service users were making use of DAX Studio. And hopefully this new feature, like the query builder, will help sort of extend that and help people get started with DAX queries. So the query builder itself is this little spanner in the toolbar. So because I've enabled that feature, it's switched on. When you click on the query builder, it opens a new window just to the right of the metadata. So I've positioned it here by default on purpose. Actually, I might go back to my local server. I was doing some practicing with that last night. So this is just a simple version of AdventureWorks. So I've positioned it just next to here by default, so you can do things like grabbing gender and marital status, their occupation. And
Oh, this is cool. So this removes the need for you to write the individual DAX statement in the main window.
Yeah. Yeah, so I've now got a query that's got 3 columns and a measure. I can click run and just run it immediately, and you can see the results.
Oh, wow.
Down here.
This is a big feature improvement. Yeah, I like this a lot.
Yeah, so you can, brings me to another feature that's Marco and Alberto at SQL BI were asking, because they use DAX Studio a lot in demos. As you can see, the font's a little bit small here. If I hold down Control on my keyboard and use my mouse wheel,
oh, nice,
I can do native zooming inside and zoom in.
Oh yeah, that's super helpful
on all the different windows.
Is that added recently that you couldn't do that before, and now it's kind of there by default, or you're just kind of everything you're adding now automatically has that?
Pretty much everything has it.
Okay.
I did forget. Marco just pointed out I forgot to. I've sort of set up I've got a custom user control in the project, and I forgot to add it to the query builder. So the query builder doesn't do it yet, but that's fixed now in the source code. That'll after 2.11.1, the next release will have that for the query builder. But
of course,
yeah, we sort of added that native functionality. We've had it for a while in the. It's probably easier if I type some text. So if you did a query.
I was working with some customers recently, and they had downloaded DAX Studio and were liking the interface of it and were able to connect to models. But their challenge was they didn't understand the syntax of how to write a query to understand that the tables were correct. So they had a data model, they connected to it, but they didn't know how to write the evaluate statement correctly, because it's different. You write things differently here than you would if you were running it in like a Power BI desktop or writing a measure. You're not writing measures at this point. It's a little bit more native to the actual language of the tabular model.
It is, yeah. Yeah, so we've always had a feature where you could zoom the main display, and there's a drop-down window too where you can pick how big to make it. A little while ago, I added a feature which is actually in the options. There it is over there. So one of the things on. Look, I can draw a little rectangle around it because I keep forgetting the rectangle tool.
Same, I do too. Yes, exactly. That's it. Yep. Okay.
Just Control and Shift. So
perfect.
Yeah, I like having that on because when I'm in a demo, I can zoom in on the query and it zooms the results. I know Alberto's not a big fan of that feature. He always switches that off.
Gotcha.
But and just with my mouse over there, I can zoom the
cool
stuff independently. I even put a little bit of extra work in the tooltip. You can see I've zoomed right out, and the tooltips also respecting that zoom level.
Yeah.
So
perfect. Cool. Neat features.
But yeah, that sort of stuff, particularly if you're demoing or if you're working on a different size screen and it's different scale, that all helps. So the other thing we've got is, so that's the top pane. You can select what you want in your output, your columns, your measures. You can also then drag a column into the filters and you get a slightly different view. You can pick from a list of filters. So this is city, which is a string, so it comes up with sorts of different filters, and that will change the results. It should work with dates. That was one of the reasons for putting out a 2.11.1 release, because the 0.0 had some issues with the filters. I'm trying to think what, because I'm in Australia, we use day, month year.
Yes.
So if I did something like the 22nd of, that'd be the 22nd of July, not the 7th of the 22nd month.
Yes, yes, exactly. This is also a rubbing point. I think the Americans got this one wrong, or I don't know who does it, right? We Americans, month, day, year. It totally doesn't make sense. It doesn't sort right. I don't like it. I've changed all my naming schemas for dates to be year, month, day. It just seems to make so much more sense.
Well, I do try and I use the locale of the machine. So if people type a date in a format that makes sense for their machine, fingers crossed it should work.
Nice.
And if I get rid of this text, so up until now I've been using the run query button. If you want to see the text produced by this query, you can click edit query.
Oh, excellent.
So this is now this is sort of following the way Power BI, if you've ever looked at the queries Power BI generates for sort of table visuals.
Sure.
They look something like this. Power BI tends to use variables for its filters. It creates a variable for the filter, and so their queries are a little bit longer. I've sort of injected them in lines so they'll work with some of the older engine versions. There are versions of the tabular engine, I think 2014 and before, don't have summarized columns, which is another reason why this is still a preview feature. So I'll need to figure out some different query patterns that work with some of those older versions of the tabular engine. But I figured getting a preview out here that works with sort of 20 analysis services 2016 and up, and it works with all Power BI and analysis services in Azure. It was worth letting people having a bit of a play around. So you can see it's taken that date that's in day, month, year format, and it's figured out up here that the year, the month, and the day. So that's a couple of other things we've done. So you can also, there's a little pencil button you'll see against the measure. I can click on that. It's had a look in my model and pulled out the expression for that measure. And I can modify that measure now, so I can override the measure expression. So if we remember this, so this top one, the female single clerical is 863. That should change to 873 when I run that. Oh no, it's scrolled to a different position. So there it is.
There it is.
That was at 863.
Nice.
So I've just, that's just a random edit. You could copy this. Oh, and I can control zoom in inside the expression editor too.
Excellent.
It's in the same editor. Because this is overridden, you can see that the internet total sales, the measure name is grayed out.
Now, is this actually editing the measure that's actually in the list on the left-hand side?
No, it actually, so if we get rid of that, it actually just creates a define clause in the query.
Gotcha. So it makes its own measure there.
Overrides it for the just for this query.
Okay, excellent. So you're not actually modifying something in the model.
So you're not actually modifying it, but yeah, this technique is something we've been sort of. I think Marco often demonstrates this. We sort of, this is a technique I use sometimes for performance tuning measures. You can override a measure just inside a query and say, oh, what would happen if I rewrote this with calculate table instead of filter? Or
I was wondering that. So it's like a way of helping you optimize or tune a particular measure by defining it right here. And so this is you're basically, it's not changing the definition. It's just saying this is the new definition and use this definition when I do the evaluate summarize column, correct?
Yep.
Oh, okay, cool. I never knew that even existed.
Yeah, you can, I mean, often I'll create a internet total sales too and experiment. But if you've got an existing query that you've captured maybe out of Power BI from doing a trace or their performance profiler, you can, without having to go through and edit every place that the measure's referenced, you can override it up the top. So it's quite a handy technique. If you want to, if it's either if you're trying to performance tune or if it's calculating incorrectly in for certain combinations of values, for whatever reason that you want to try a different expression, you can do that.
Cool. And I would assume that the same logic would follow inside that query that you have there. When you've made the new query, it allows you to, while you're editing it, if you wanted to add the 2 at the end, it would automatically, you have to add the 2 down below in the measure inside the query statement as well.
Yeah, you'd have to edit it in both places.
Both places.
At the top and at the bottom. Yeah.
Sure.
But you can also, I've just clicked on the new button and this has created a brand new measure. I can choose which table I want to sit that measure in. For the purpose of an inline query, it's the location of the table is sort of just really a cosmetic thing. I'm not sure why they...
Because the measure only lives in your query that you're running. It doesn't technically live in a table at this point because you're writing it in there.
It really, the measures really only need a table so that it knows where to, the UI knows where to sit them in the metadata tree.
Sure.
In the context of the queries, it's not really here or there whether I sit it in customer or internet sales. But I can create my own V2 measure that adds 11. And we can see internet sales V2 is now 1 more than the internet total sales. Complete that measure and you'll see if you click edit query, it's generated a so the define block actually does require a table name and a measure name, even though measures are required to be globally unique within the model. So it should be enough to exclude that, but the DAX parser in the tabular engine will complain if I try and run that query. It should tell me that there's oh no, it's making a liar out of me. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, so that's a good improvement because that never used to be the case. I can probably simplify that query builder.
Cool.
Because so as a best measure, as a best practice, we don't include the table name in the actual measure when it's referenced inside a query. Yeah. So you can tell at a glance that that's a measure and something with the square brackets, but a table in front is a column.
Makes sense. I know Marco heavily promotes that methodology as well.
Yeah, and we sort of try and help you to do that by building it that way when we do the query builder. And if you need to edit these measures at any point, you can pop it open and
I think this is really neat.
Change your expression.
That's a huge change. You did a lot of code to make all that stuff work.
Yeah, and I've done a bit of work so that the filters drop down options that are match the data type. So numbers don't have the starts with, whereas with strings you can do contains and starts with, and so I've sort of borrowed a little bit from the expression of creating a table visual in Power BI and sort of extended that a bit. So hopefully that'll help. I mean, I've even found this helpful when I've been building measures. Even though I know how to type this out, you can drag and drop an awful lot faster. and build up a query.
I like being efficient or lazy or whatever you want to call it, but that's a really good efficiency generator there. And I'm not a good speller, so I spell things wrong all the time. I'm like, why is it not working? Oh, you just spelled it wrong. So this
Yep.
resolves that problem altogether.
Yeah, and if you've got a new measure that you're typing out that you're testing, what would we do if we take the sum of freight and then we multiply it by 1.1 to sort of do a 10% increase? And if you decide that you like, this measure is now, you can run tests. Oh, there's a rough edge. What's that done? Oh, I've dragged a number down in here. So I've got an empty argument for freight. So if I get rid of that, that's producing this line. So that was me. I dragged a number in and didn't, as a filter, and then didn't set a value to filter on.
Gotcha.
Run that now. Yeah, I've got my measure. So you can click on the pencil and copy and paste that expression into your model once you're happy with it. So yeah, I have had a couple of questions on the DAX Studio GitHub where people are not sure, but they want to sort of paste. I think they were looking more for a measure builder, whereas this is a query builder. So it builds a query that returns multiple rows. It doesn't really help you build a measure as such.
And typically in DAX Studio, you're not really returning measures. I mean, can you return a measure too if you just need to get a measure returned? I thought everything in here was pretty much table returns.
Yeah. Oh, you can run a single measure, but it returns a table with a single column and row.
Yes.
So you can drag just a measure onto the query builder.
Oh, okay. And this is where I'd see this would be an advantage to show people, like showing you how is it. It's writing all this code behind the scenes to just illuminate a single measure for you, which is super helpful because a lot of times you just need a single measure, but I don't want to write calculate table row my measure. Like there's a lot of things going on here that I don't need to write that it's just doing for me, which is super slick.
Yep. So all I pretty much had to write was that sum of freight multiplied by 1.1, and it's generated the date filter and the search for cities starting with Mel.
Amazing.
And it generated the row and calculate table. So yeah, that's my current little baby at the moment. So I'm still working at sort of polishing that. I know there was an issue. Which one? It was, I think it was the is not filter. I'd actually spelt keep filters incorrectly in the back end somehow. So I've added a test now in my test harness that checks that sort of stuff and fixed that in the 2.11.1 release. So there was a bug with is not. So that was handy that we got a couple of people logged that. So yeah, there's still a few things like the down level engines that I'll see if I can code up a fix for. But otherwise, yeah, I think it's pretty solid, and I'm interested to hear if there's any feedback from people, if there's any improvements or other things I'd like to see. But hopefully, it covers the majority of use cases. So you can run measures and run columns. Quite handy if you
I for sure will let my clients know right away. There's an easier way of writing queries now. Go get the newest version. You can start getting in and playing around with your models much faster now. This is great.
Yeah, so I've made sure you can just just drag and drop to run things. If you want them in a different order, you can drag them around. I suppose one thing I don't have at the moment is sorting. I was playing around with doing a rolling 3-month measure, so I had years and months and my base measure, and then I created a new measure, which was quite handy because I could see the 3 months and see if my rolling was adding the 3 months correctly. But I'm not generating an order by explicitly at the bottom of the query. So if you
so you can add this after the fact too, do an order by.
Yeah, I mean, this is not going to make sense because this one I've generated, I've just seen is the row.
Just the measure, yeah.
But you could use, because you can edit the query, you can send the text here to the main editor, and then you can use the normal run button to run what's in the editor.
Oh, okay.
So you could, so that was one thing I was a little bit hesitant about, was having a run query button inside the builder and a separate run button up here, but they really do two different things. This one will execute the columns and filters that's inside this vertical builder pane, whereas the run button here executes the statement that it sees in the editor.
Okay.
Which, as you can see, I can make this my measure 3 and click run, and it's
updating.
It's updating down here.
And the results window is the same for both of them. So whether I click the run button at the top ribbon or click the run button down below, the results window will show the same, will always be the same. There won't be two result windows.
Yeah. No.
Okay.
So I use to sort of share the results window for that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So the other feature we've got, the other big new feature was in the Advanced tab, and that's the Run Benchmark button. So I do have, what was I playing with? I think group buys do. So that's just an example. It's a fairly simple, it doesn't take very long to run. So if I just run it normally, I think it's barely measurable. It returns 4 rows just as a count rows of internet sales, which is fairly small on my machine.
Do you mind making the two windows just a bit larger? Zooming in there a bit. Yeah, there we go. Perfect. Yep, much easier to see now.
Yes. So one thing that'll happen when you're performance tuning, you can turn on the server timings trace. So that started the trace down here. Like the other windows, I can zoom in on that too. So this query is very, very fast. Like it's taking 6 milliseconds.
Yeah.
Only doing 2 scans. But you can see, even with fast queries like this, you can see a bit of variation on your, even if you're on a quiet dev machine, you can get virus scanners, or you can get slight differences in background services and things running that can impact this this speed and either make it slower than normal or possibly even faster than normal if the machine was abnormally quiet. So when you click Run Benchmark, it pops up a little window that gives you the option of running the query a number of times and then collecting collects the performance trace. It actually runs the server timings trace in the background. So even if I go back here and turn off the server timings, close that window, so we're back to sort of a normal window. I come to my benchmark, by default it runs 5 times, and I've got the normally run sort of the same number of cold cache executions and warm cache. So when I run cold cache, it does a clear of the tabular cache before it runs the query, and then it runs it. And when we do a warm cache, we just run without clearing cache in between. By default, it does 5, and it does the same of both. If you want to run different, or if you don't want to run warm cache, you can change those. But by default, it links them, runs the same. So you see the server timings trace is not running at the moment. If I click run, it actually starts up a server timings trace in the background. And then it starts sending this text. So currently it's doing a clear cache and then a run, and then it's running the warm cache, and it'll run that 5 times without doing a clear cache in between. And then it'll collect all of the metrics from server timings and present that in a table.
Oh, cool. Oh, this makes my statistical heart very happy. Now that we have multiple runs on things, this is great.
Yeah, so it just gives you a bit more of a solid, statistical measure of your query and how it performs under cold and warm cache. So we can see on the cold cache, it took between, the min was 4 milliseconds and the max was 6 milliseconds. It had a standard deviation of 1, the average was 5. Warm cache, it was slightly better, it had 5 milliseconds and 2 milliseconds.
This is cool. I like this one.
And you can see it just gives you the total duration and the storage engine duration, because
Sure.
They're the actual 2 hard measurements. When we calculate the formula engine, that is just total minus storage. So I haven't really bothered putting the formula engine, because that's just the difference between the total and the storage engine. So that puts the summary. You can do Control A and copy and paste the whole grid out if you want to store it somewhere else. And there's also details. So I've got all of the metrics that came back, the number of Wrapup cache matches, the formula engine, the CPU factor, all of the measures, the metrics that we show in server timings for all of the 5 cold and the 5 warm runs. I've got the details in here if people need that level of documentation behind their performance tuning. But hopefully
people need to pay you for this feature, because this is going to make people a lot of money just by being able to performance tune to this level and be able to run it with warm and cold caches and having such a detailed information. This is awesome.
Yeah, it was quite a it's just sort of building on top of a bunch of the features we had already. So I just pretty much added a little broadcast event to the server timing, so that the little benchmark window could capture the events once it had finished processing them. Yeah, and it's using the the clear cache and run feature to do the cold cache runs, and then it just does a normal run query. So it was just sort of building on top of the building blocks we had already.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. Neat feature there.
Yeah, so that was the other. They were probably the 2 big ones. The other things we released in 2.11 were a lot of little bug fixes. There was one in one of the other reasons for releasing a 2.11.1, a little point release, was the export to SQL tables had a bug in it. I had started work on something and I forgot I'd started it. I often have the source code to DAX Studio open, and sometimes I get inspiration. You go, oh, I know what I can do, and obviously started doing that and then forgot and left a bug in the code.
Oopsies.
Yeah, it's quite hard to test everything. So I'm going to just export to my temp DB. I'm going to create a little export schema. So there's not a lot of tables in here, so I'm just going to export them all. I think internet sales is the biggest, so that'll stop. But I've I do a little row count query on each table, so I know how many rows are in there. So that lets me now show a little progress bar. So this will only take a few seconds to sort of export, but you should see, we'll see a little progress bar skip along. We'll really only see it for internet sales. The others flick along so fast that it barely has time to update. But yeah, you'll see there goes internet sales.
Oh, look at that.
Tracking along. So you know roughly how long each table is going to take now.
And it's reading the model, and then you are doing, the model's parsing the full table, but you're doing a stream write to a file, correct? So you're kind of streaming the data into a file as you observe it.
Yep.
Nice.
Yep. And this is doing this does a bulk insert into SQL Server. So
cool.
So yeah, I've talked with Marco because newer versions of the engine have a top-end skip function, which is what the it's actually what the what's it called, the data tab in Power BI.
Oh, okay.
When you look at it, when you're viewing here, it's actually running top-end skip queries, so it's only showing you, it's running a query for sort of this viewport of the window. So that's how you can scroll through the data so fast.
Yeah. That's also, so you notice sometimes, I'll notice sometimes you'll scroll down, if you use a scroll wheel, like it takes a second for it to load every so often. Yep. So that must be what it's doing. It's just kind of hitting that query. Yeah.
Yeah, so it just grabs incremental chunks. So that's one of the things we want to look at here is can I detect if we're running against a new enough version of the engine that it supports top-end skip, and then use that to do sort of page type queries against the tabular engine, because we do have issues at the moment, because if it's just doing a evaluate query, which says give me the whole table, and then the tabular engine tries to generate that table in memory and send it down. So you can get memory issues on the tabular side of the engine with this export feature at the moment.
So one of our key guys, I got a question that has come in. So Alex Dupler is on the Q&A. Hey Alex, appreciate you guys running by here. He's a big Alex and Alex, the Alex show, I think, has been on YouTube here recently, because there's Alex Dupler and Alex Powers. I think they do their own like little YouTube station. So he says the question is, now that now that the external tools are kind of on the horizon for Power BI Desktop, do you have any plans allowing people to write a measure and have that measure written back into an open Power BI file? So basically creating measures here and then forcing them into the data model through your tool back into the open Power BI model.
Yeah, that's, I've actually been talking to, if anyone's seen the MBAS recordings, or was at the MBAS sessions.
Yes,
this feature
correct.
I think was introduced by Christian Wade.
Christian Wade was the one. Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, I've been in contact with Christian sort of back when this feature first came out. So I think Daniel Otkia. I'm sure I've just mangled his last name, but so Daniel worked on that as part of the contributor program, and Christian gave me sort of a heads up and gave me access to an early build so we could get DAX Studio integrated with it. So when that releases, I'll have an update to the installer so that when you install DAX Studio, it'll just register itself with the external tools. So yeah, I have held off previously sort of and tried to keep DAX Studio as sort of a read-only query-based tool, but part of the reason for that was that editing, I did try editing measures in Power Pivot, and that results in all sorts of pain. I've corrupted numerous Excel workbooks.
Oh no.
So yeah, that's so part of that's due to the fact that Power Pivots, it's really not designed or built to be accessed from anything other than the Power Pivot window. And up until recently, Power BI was sort of similar. If you fiddle with the model underneath Power BI would not see some of the updates, and but now that they're hardening it, it's definitely something I'm looking at. So yeah, I've been talking to Daniel at who does Tabular Editor.
Yep.
It's just a matter of probably have to come up with some sort of syntax of our own potentially, because I don't think I'm not sure if Microsoft will support like an alter measure type statement.
So what I will do is I threw two kind of kicks here. The first link I threw out there was a link to your GitHub page for any issues or ideas. So the first thing you can do is, if you think this is a good idea, definitely drop it in on the GitHub page so that Darren can take a look at it and add it into the backlog, or when you're bored on a project, you can spend some time diverting your mind away and seeing how you'd edit a measure like that. And I also did drop in Daniel Okier's a tabular editor, so he has the tool that will allow that happen. So it's not out yet. It's, again, stay tuned. Microsoft is still working on releasing desktops that will enable multiple edits. But for now, it's kind of in a TBD state. It'll be here shortly, I think. But again, just keep waiting around, and you'll be able to edit your measures and push those measures back into a Power BI model using Tabular Editor. So those are kind of your only two options, I think, at this point.
Yeah. So one of my concepts is whether I come up with some sort of, I'm toying with this idea of building a sort of a smart comment syntax, so that if you run this in any other tool, it won't change because it's hidden inside, it's nested inside a comment. It won't affect if you tried to run code inside Management Studio or copy and paste it inside to a measure in Power BI. But maybe having something like this that would then tell DAX Studio that the text after this needs to be inserted back into the current model.
Gotcha. Sounds like you need another external tools ribbon for your tool as well. So you could external tool from Power BI Desktop into DAX Studio, and then you can go from DAX Studio right into Tabular Editor. I feel like I'm going to quickly need more monitors on my computer to handle all the extra editors I'm going to need to use to look at, review, and edit my tabular models now.
Yeah, and Tabular Editors, it's definitely designed around very easy and quickly editing and building measures, and
yeah, it's different. Totally different tool. Yeah. So it's more. So if you were looking at Power BI, DAX Studio is more focused in the report side of things, with building measures and getting data out. Mm-hmm. Tabular Editor is more in I want to add relationships, I want to add columns, I want to connect to data sources. Sure. Side
of things.
So we don't have any other questions at this time. Is there any other kind of key features or bug fixes you want to kind of point out, and we can wrap it?
No, that's pretty much a wrap.
Cool. Well, I'm very excited about your next version. Super appreciate your time today. Thank you very much, and happy to have you back for the next release. Is there any news you want to share? Is there any things coming up that we should be looking forward to, or any kind of things that you feel are worth noting that's coming in the future?
No, I do have. I've been doing work on the installer to integrate with that external tools feature. So I will publish an update once that feature goes public. So there will be like a 2.12 release probably that will include the integration, so that DAX Studio will just appear in your ribbon. But that's probably the next thing on the horizon. I've got a number of other things on the boil. I'm looking at sort of redoing the options window, because we've got so many options now that like I know the options there. Sometimes I'm depending on the size screen I'm on, it sort of reshuffles the displays. So I'm looking at building something more like I was having a look at the options in the new Edge.
Oh, okay.
So I'm So I've been working at a way of building preferences like that.
Cool.
So I've got a little prototype options window that I've been sort of experimenting with. So that'll probably come in some version, and got a few other things I've been experimenting with, and I've been talking to Daniel about some of the. We've actually aligned the colors in DAX Studio and Tabular Editor, and because our Evaluate used to be a slightly green color, but now we're the same. I think we've got the same coloring now across Tabular Editor, DAX Studio, and DAXformatter.com.
Now you're getting fancy.
Yeah, so we've got a little bit of open source collaboration going on.
Cool, excellent. Gotta like that. Makes it easier for everyone.
Yeah. So, and yeah, I've been doing a bit more collaboration with Daniel. So that's got a few things on the boil there that might come to fruit in a few months' time. So
cool. Well, with that, I don't want to give away too many secrets. We'll call it quits. Thank you very much for your time. Yep. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Have a great. I think it's Friday your time frame. So have a great Friday. You beat me. It's Thursday here, so enjoy your Friday. Thank you very much. Appreciate your time. We'll do more of these webinars, and as we get more releases, we'll try and keep you up to date on all the newest features from DAX Studio. Darren, thank you very much. Take care. Have a great day.
Thanks. Cheers. Bye.
Cheers.